Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of sirens echoing across entire cities. Phones begin buzzing with emergency alerts. Military radar stations suddenly detect dozens, then hundreds, of objects moving across the sky. Command centers light up with warnings. And within minutes, fighter jets are scrambling into the air. This is not a military exercise. The first hours of a direct war between Iran and Israel. For decades, these two countries have been locked in a shadow conflict. Cyber attacks, covert operations, targeted strikes, and proxy battles across the Middle East. But a direct war between them would be something entirely different, because both countries possess some of the most advanced military technologies in the region. On one side, Iran has built a vast arsenal of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles capable of reaching targets across the Middle East. On the other side, Israel operates one of the most sophisticated air defense networks in the world, including the famous Iron Dome system designed to intercept incoming rockets and missiles. But even the most advanced defenses have limits, and the first 24 hours of a war between these two nations could push those limits to the breaking point. Military planners often say that the opening hours of a conflict determine everything, because once missiles start flying, events move incredibly fast. Decisions that normally take weeks must now be made in minutes. Radar operators track incoming threats. Air defense commanders decide which missiles to intercept. Pilots race toward the sky to stop attacks before they reach major cities. And political leaders face an impossible question. How far should they escalate the conflict? Because the moment a direct war begins between Iran and Israel, it will not remain contained for long. Both countries have allies. Both have strategic partnerships. And both sit in one of the most geopolitically sensitive regions on Earth. According to many military analysts, the first 24 hours of such a war could involve hundreds of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles launched across the region. Air defenses would attempt to intercept them. Fighter jets would hunt down launch platforms. And naval forces across the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean would immediately move into combat positions. But perhaps the most dangerous part of those first hours is something few people think about: confusion. In the fog of war, radar signals can be misinterpreted. Civilian aircraft might appear on military screens, missile launches might be mistaken for larger attacks, and each side may believe the other is preparing an even bigger strike. This is how regional wars can quickly spiral into something far more dangerous. And that is why military strategists around the world study one question very carefully. If a full-scale war between Iran and Israel ever begins, what exactly would happen in the first 24 hours? Because those first hours could decide not just the fate of two nations, but the stability of the entire Middle East. And, as you will see in this video, the chain reaction of events during those first 24 hours could unfold far faster than anyone expects. The first hour of war rarely begins with a single explosion. Instead, it begins with movement. Missile units preparing for launch, radar systems scanning the sky, fighter jets moving into combat positions. In a conflict between Iran and Israel, military planners expect the opening phase to involve a massive wave of long-range attacks. Iran has spent decades developing one of the largest missile arsenals in the Middle East. These include short-range ballistic missiles, medium-range ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and long-range attack drones. Many of these weapons are stored inside underground tunnel networks, sometimes referred to as missile cities. These facilities are designed to protect launchers from airstrikes and allow missiles to be launched quickly during a conflict. Once the launch order is given, mobile launchers move out of tunnels and prepare for firing. Within minutes, the first wave of weapons could be on its way. Military analysts estimate that Iran could launch hundreds of drones and missiles within the first hours of a conflict. Some of these drones travel slowly, flying low to avoid radar detection. Others are cruise missiles designed to strike military targets with precision. And then there are ballistic missiles, weapons that travel high into the atmosphere before descending toward their targets at extremely high speeds. For defenders, this combination creates a serious challenge, because the different types of weapons require different interception strategies. As the first wave approaches Israeli airspace, radar networks begin tracking each incoming object. Air defense operators must decide which threats to intercept first. This is where Israel's layered air defense system becomes critical. Systems such as Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow missile defense system are designed to intercept different types of incoming threats. Short-range rockets may be handled by Iron Dome. Cruise missiles and drones may be intercepted by other defensive systems. Meanwhile, long-range ballistic missiles may require specialized interceptors designed to destroy them high above the atmosphere. But even the most advanced air defense network can face a critical problem: numbers. Each interceptor missile costs hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, of dollars. And each battery can only launch a limited number of interceptors at a time. This means attackers may attempt to overwhelm defenses by launching large numbers of weapons simultaneously. Military strategists call this saturation warfare. The goal is simple: If enough missiles and drones arrive at the same time, some may slip through the defensive shield. And even a small number of successful strikes could have significant consequences. Air bases, radar stations, command centers, energy infrastructure, all could become targets during the opening phase of a war. And while air defenses work to stop incoming threats, Israel would likely begin preparing its own response. Fighter jets could already be moving toward launch locations. Intelligence satellites might be tracking missile units on the ground. And military planners would be preparing the next phase of the conflict. Because the first wave of attacks is rarely the last. In fact, in modern warfare, the first few hours are often just the beginning of a much larger escalation. And as the skies fill with drones, missiles, and interceptors, the region could be moving closer to something far more dangerous. As the first waves of drones and missiles approach their targets, the conflict quickly shifts into a race against time. Radar stations track hundreds of moving objects across the sky. Air defense operators analyze speed, altitude, and trajectory, and within seconds, decisions must be made. Which targets are real threats, which are decoys, and which must be intercepted immediately. For Israel, the defense of its airspace depends on a complex network of layered systems working together. Short-range rockets may be intercepted by Iron Dome, while larger missiles could be targeted by systems such as David's Sling or the Long-Range Aero Missile Defense System. But air defense systems are only one part of the battlefield. Fighter jets also play a critical role. Within minutes of detecting the incoming attack, Israeli pilots would likely be airborne. Advanced fighter aircraft such as the F-35 Lightning II and the F-15 could begin intercepting drones and cruise missiles long before they reach Israeli territory. These aircraft are equipped with advanced radar and air-to-air missiles capable of destroying targets hundreds of kilometers away. By intercepting threats early, fighter jets can reduce the pressure on ground-based air defenses. But even with these capabilities, the situation in the sky could quickly become chaotic. Drone swarms may approach from multiple directions. Cruise missiles could fly low to avoid radar detection. And ballistic missiles could descend from the upper atmosphere at extreme speeds. Each type of weapon creates a different challenge for defenders. Meanwhile, inside military command centers, another critical decision is being made. How quickly should Israel respond? Because while air defenses focus on stopping incoming threats, military planners are already preparing the next phase of the conflict, counterstrikes. Intelligence satellites and surveillance drones may already be tracking launch sites across Iran and other parts of the region. Mobile missile launchers, drone bases, command centers, all could become potential targets for retaliation. In modern warfare, the goal is not only to defend against an attack, but to stop the next wave before it even begins. That means locating missile units before they fire again, destroying launch infrastructure, and disrupting command networks that coordinate large-scale attacks. But this is where the situation becomes extremely dangerous, because once both sides begin launching large-scale strikes against each other's military infrastructure, escalation becomes much harder to control. Every successful strike invites retaliation. Every intercepted missile may be followed by another wave, and every hour that passes increases the risk that other regional actors could become involved. This is why military strategists often warn that the most dangerous phase of any war is not the first missile launch. It is what happens in the hours that follow. Because once the skies fill with drones, missiles, and fighter jets, stopping the escalation becomes far more difficult. And the next few hours could determine whether the conflict remains limited or expands into something much larger. By the time the conflict reaches its 6th or 7th hour, the battle is no longer just about stopping incoming missiles. It becomes a strategic contest between two very different military doctrines. On one side is Iran, a country that has spent decades building a strategy focused on missiles, drones, and asymmetric warfare. Instead of relying heavily on advanced fighter jets, Iran invested heavily in ballistic missiles and long-range drones capable of striking targets across the Middle East. Military analysts estimate that Iran possesses thousands of ballistic missiles of various ranges, giving it one of the largest missile arsenals in the region. Many of these missiles are designed to reach targets hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. To protect this arsenal, Iran has developed extensive underground storage networks. Missiles are hidden inside mountain tunnels and hardened bunkers. Mobile launchers can move quickly across the landscape, fire their payloads, and relocate before enemy aircraft can locate them. This strategy is designed to make it extremely difficult for any air force to eliminate Iran's missile capability completely. On the other side is Israel, which has built its defense strategy around air superiority and advanced technology. Israel's air force is widely considered one of the most capable in the world. Aircraft such as the stealth F-35 Lightning II allow Israeli pilots to operate deep inside heavily defended airspace. These aircraft are designed to evade radar detection and strike high-value targets with precision weapons. In addition, Israel operates one of the most advanced layered air defense systems on Earth. Systems like Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Aero Missile Defense System are designed to intercept threats at different altitudes and distances, Together, these systems form a defensive shield intended to stop rockets, drones, and ballistic missiles before they reach populated areas. But even with these technologies, the battle quickly becomes a test of endurance. Air defense systems rely on interceptor missiles. Each interception costs money, resources, and time. Meanwhile, attackers can often produce drones or rockets at far lower costs. This creates a strategic imbalance known as the cost exchange problem. For example, a relatively inexpensive drone might force defenders to launch an interceptor missile worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Over time, large-scale drone attacks can slowly drain defensive resources. Military think tanks frequently study this problem when analyzing modern air warfare. Because in large conflicts, the side that manages its resources more effectively often gains the advantage. And during the first 24 hours of a war, both sides are constantly calculating how far they can push the conflict. Should they launch more missiles? Should they expand targets? Or should they hold back to avoid a wider regional war? These decisions are not just military, they are political. Because the moment strikes begin hitting deeper infrastructure targets, power grids, ports, or major military bases, the conflict can quickly escalate beyond the control of either side. And as the battle continues through the night, leaders on both sides must decide whether the next move will escalate the war further, or attempt to stop it before the situation spirals out of control. As the first day of the war unfolds, the consequences extend far beyond Israel and Iran. The skies over the Middle East are filled with hundreds of drones, missiles, and fighter jets, but the ripple effects of this conflict are already spreading globally. Oil markets react immediately. The Strait of Hormuz, through which nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes, becomes a flashpoint. Even minor disruptions can send oil prices soaring. Analysts predict that a prolonged conflict could push global oil prices above $150 per barrel, affecting economies worldwide. Reuters.com. Neighboring countries watch carefully. Nations such as Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Turkey brace for potential spillover. Borders tighten, airspace restrictions are enforced, and military units are put on high alert. Meanwhile, the international community struggles to respond. The United Nations issues emergency meetings and global powers debate sanctions, peacekeeping, and diplomatic intervention. UN.org. From a military standpoint, the first 24 hours reveal the effectiveness and limitations of modern warfare. Drone swarms, previously considered secondary tools, prove their ability to overwhelm even the most sophisticated air defense systems. Meanwhile, stealth aircraft and precision strikes demonstrate how technological superiority can temporarily stabilize defense lines. Think tanks across the world, including the International Institute for Strategic Studies and the Center for Strategic and International Studies, analyze the event in real time, highlighting the changing nature of air warfare and regional security dynamics. Their reports warn that the first day's events are likely a preview of future conflicts, where drones, missiles, and cyber warfare dominate the battlefield. Even civilians are affected. Mass evacuations in Israel, disruptions in commerce, and the constant threat of attacks create a humanitarian crisis. The psychological impact of seeing skies filled with drones and missiles cannot be overstated, and the first 24 hours set the tone for what could become a protracted conflict. By the end of the day, both Iran and Israel reassess their strategies. Iran analyzes which missiles were intercepted and which evaded defenses, while Israel calculates the cost of interceptors and prepares for the next wave. The escalation ladder is firmly established, and the clock begins ticking toward potentially catastrophic outcomes. As night falls over the Middle East, the first 24 hours of war conclude, but the danger is far from over. Military systems have been tested to their limits. Interceptor missiles have been exhausted. Air defense radar operators are fatigued, and both sides are calculating the next moves under extreme time pressure. The potential for system collapse is real. If even a handful of missiles evade interception and hit critical infrastructure, it could trigger cascading failures. Power grids down, airports closed, ports blocked, and communication networks disrupted. Once that begins, controlling the conflict becomes exponentially harder. Analysts warn that the time pressure in modern warfare accelerates decisions, sometimes forcing leaders to escalate faster than they intended. Miscalculations in the first 24 hours can snowball into a regional war involving allies, foreign powers, and potentially global intervention. From a strategic perspective, the lessons are clear. Drone swarms and missile saturation attacks are no longer theoretical. They can overwhelm even highly advanced air defenses. Stealth aircraft and precision strikes can temporarily restore balance, but at high cost. And the first day of conflict demonstrates that modern war is as much about timing, logistics, and technology as it is about strategy and politics. For viewers, the takeaway is this: the Middle East is entering a new era of warfare. Skies are no longer safe, borders are no longer secure, and the consequences of escalation could affect the world in ways few anticipate. Subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analysis of global conflicts, military strategy, and the technology shaping the wars of tomorrow. Comment below what you think will happen in the next 24 hours of this crisis. Your opinion could be featured in our next video.